Good day and welcome to Mr. Wilson CSEC Biology HSB Live. I approach this show knowing that not all plants in the forest will grow at the same speed. Same too, not all students will learn at the same speed. It's important to note a child from a loving family will be able to see the mountaintop, as this child will be allowed to stand on the shoulders of the family. For our students with exams recently, remember, you will get better if you keep going. And if you keep going, you will certainly reach. This evening, we're going to be looking at the skeletal system, and we want to, as much as possible, complete the topic this evening. If you have not yet liked, share, or subscribe, we invite you to do so now. It is CSEC Biology, the cover page. When you subscribe, you'll be able to be a part of a live chat. So in our lesson today, we're going to be looking at movement, the skeletal system, its function, the vertebral column, ribcage, the girdles, bones, cartilage, tendon, ligaments, muscle, joints, arm movement, and of course, posture. Good evening, Tamara. Good evening, Tamara, and welcome to the show. If you are joining from Jamaica, welcome. And if you're joining from the family in the Caribbean, we also welcome you to the show. If you're joining from outside Jamaica, we ask that you share for us the island from which you come. And if you're joining from Jamaica and you're comfortable to say which institution you're from, that would also be great. But if you're not comfortable to say what institution you're from, of course, it would be wonderful if you could say that I'm from Jamaica. Without further ado, let's get right into the show. We're going to be starting off the show with movement. And movement is this important and sometimes controversial topic that is very important that we take the time out to cover movement. Now, there's always a confusion around movement versus locomotion. And of course, movement and or locomotion are a very important part of a life of organisms. Organisms will move or locomote for special reasons and of course at special time. So let's look at why organisms would move. Some of the reasons for movement, everybody is not here as yet, I'll definitely give you this question. Some of the reasons for movement would include the first, to find food. All organisms want to stay alive. Organisms, of course, will move to escape predators. Organisms will move to find mate, to find water, to escape danger that is usually not necessarily a predator. Organisms will also move to take up advantageous position. Of course, that could, of course, enhance their life. Organisms will move for protection, all right? They could move to protect themselves. They can move to, of course, warn you that, of course, you are in danger. For example, you could look at a snake moving to say, listen to me, I will strike. Or the monkeys feeding above the gazelle in a tree, they will move to indicate to the gazelle that, listen to me, there's a cheetah on its way. Organism will also move to find shelter. One cannot go without saying, very important, in Jamaica, we're all moving. We move to exercise. Now that we have a clear understanding as to why we move, now it's very important for us to make that distinction between actual movement and locomotion. But the reasons for movement that we put forward just now, they were not differentiated as to movement or the specifics of locomotion. Now, when we are going to be doing the difference, we're going to be doing the distinction between locomotion and diffusion, you should be able to say for which of the characteristics we looked at now, or the reasons, you should be able to say why or for which, be it locomotion or movement, to which would you assign the reasons for moving. Let's go right into it. So movement must not be confused with locomotion. Movement should not be confused with locomotion. Movement is seen in some cases as part movement, and I'm getting there. All right? While locomotion is seen as whole movement. So we're saying that in movement, it is sometimes part movement, but in locomotion, there is, of course, total displacement. So let's look at it a little closer. Now, locomotion is the displacement of an organism. What it means is that the organism is going to move from point A to point B. The term is safely used with most animals, and I said most animals. All right, so the term is safely used with most animals as the muscle attached to bone, and of course they are going to contract to bring about motion. Later in the lesson, we're going to be looking at how this takes place, what really happens. So we've just looked at locomotion. Locomotion involves the total displacement, and it's a term that is comfortably used when we are talking about most animals. So if I were supposed to leave where I am now and I should go to some other place, that is locomotion. If you were supposed to walk across a room, that is of course locomotion. But I am doing this now, moving my hand. This is movement, right? My lips, they are moving. But locomotion, like I said, is a total displacement of the organism. So the organism is being displaced from point A to, of course, point B. Movement. This does not involve the displacement of the organism. So the organism is at the same place, but some part of it will be allowed to move. So you're going to be seeing motion in movement, but the organism will not be displaced. Let us look at some movement. There is the first thing we probably could think about as we look and ascribe movement more to animals than we do to plants. Sorry. As we look at movement, movement is a term that is closely fixed to plants because plants are not really being displaced from where they are. So movement for me, it is easily used with plants. Locomotion for me, it is easily used with animals. Now we could think about growth movement, and growth movement, of course, is this permanent increase in size of the cell and or complexity of a cell. You will see growth movement, and of course a plant will always grow towards light. You will also see movement in terms of the root. So while the shoot will grow towards light, so too the root will grow towards water or towards the soil. Now, these are examples of growth movement in plants. So like I said earlier, movement is a term that is comfortably used with plants. Locomotion is a term that is more comfortably used with most animals. As we move and continue with movement, as in part movement, I want you to look at and type in the chat there for me, what is Gnostic movement? When we talk about Gnostic movement, what are we referring to? So I want you to look for Gnostic movement, and I want you to give it to me there in the chat. All the persons who are a part of the chat, please type it in the chat there for me. All right, as you go to the search, I say good evening to De Souza. I also say good evening to Treasure. And to those other persons who are joining, I say a pleasant evening to you all. I am Mr. Wilson, and we are streaming from Kingston, Jamaica, live. And of course, please be reminded to like, share, and subscribe. And I want you to call your friends on now as we are discussing the entire skeletal system. We're on a roll. We want to complete the syllabus before exam. Let's go. So other part movement would include like the opening and closing of the petals of a plant. You'd also see some plants curling the leaves during the evening. Okay, the thing is Gnostic movement. Just let me type it in the chat there for you. I want you to look at Gnostic movement. I want you to tell me in the chat what's Gnostic movement. So other part movement, I know we're talking about movement outside of growth movement. We could talk about, of course, the opening and closing of petals of a plant. We could also talk about the curling of the leaves. I know that there's a leguminous plant, and it's called Glycidia, right? And I know that during the evening, the leaf takes on a total different form. Then we also could talk about the insectivorous plant, the Venus flytrap in particular. Now, the Venus flytrap, based on some what we probably call trichomes there, sensitive ear or ear-like projection on the inner part, it will close having been touched by an organism. So that too is a type of movement. The Venus flytrap is an insectivorous plant or a carnivorous plant. Now, we also can relate to the movement that is seen with the mimosa plant. All right, some persons are calling it in Jamaica the shame old lady plant. As soon as you touch that plant, what will happen is that the leaves will close. And then after some time, the leaves will reopen. All right, so of course, that is another type of movement. All right, so let me be certain, let us be certain here that we're able to distinguish between movement versus locomotion. The big thing about locomotion is that you're displaced, you're moved from one place to another. With movement, the organism does not move from where it is. So we could speak about things like the sedentary animals, right? Like coral. It will, of course, move the tentacle, but of course, it will not be displaced from where it is. All right, so a long list of stuff there we have looked at. That was a quick look at movement. And of course, we've looked at the reasons for moving. And we've also looked at, of course, examples of movement and, of course, examples of locomotion. So a bird would locomote, right? Most of the class will locomote. And we're going to be looking at that. So amylarines, plants move, are plant movement that occur in response to environmental stimulus. Gnastic movement are non-directional to stimulus and are usually associated with plant. All right, a whole lot of things coming up there. We're looking at Gnastic movement. And it's your activity to tell us what is Gnastic movement, and persons have been coming up with their research and their understanding of Gnastic movement. So we are going to be moving on into the skeletal system. And the skeletal system, for me, it refers to the use, it's a term that is used to refer to a support framework. For me, it is a term that is used to refer to a support framework with animals. And if you observe here, when I spoke about the skeletal system, I did not talk about bones. And I'm going to be telling you why right now. Now, the skeletal system could be looked at as endoskeleton or exoskeleton. So we could say endoskeleton, that's a type of skeleton that is found within. And most of the classes, or all the classes of animals that you'd be exposed to, they tend to have endoskeleton. We could think about the mammals, the amphibians, the fish, the bird, and of course, reptiles. Their skeleton, it is on the inside. We are mammals, so we too have skeleton that's on the inside. The topic for today, Amoy, is the skeletal system, and we are covering the skeletal system for both bio and HSP. So we're looking at the skeletal system today. If you're just joining us, we're looking at the skeletal system. We just covered movement, and now we're diving right into the skeletal system. The expectation is that we're going to be covering the entire topic for both bio and HSP. I hope I'm a bit clearer to you, Amoy. All right. So if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please feel free to do so now. If you have not liked or shared, it is just the time to do so. Invite a friend, call however many, to join us, because we're going to be having a great time. We're going to be learning a whole lot today. We're going to be having a break at the 30-minute interval. We're going to be having a break at the hour interval, because we're expecting that we're going to be doing about 2 hours to 2.5 hours today to complete this topic and carry out the activities. All right, there are a couple of activities that we need to do, because we need to ensure that you understand. So we're going to do our first activity, which is to move. So if you are seated where you are, all you need to do to move is probably just to clap the hands. That's movement. Just to clap the hands. All right, so that's movement. Now, if you want to locomote, you could just stand and you could just walk away from where you are. So just stand and walk away, that's locomotion. Stand and walk away, that's locomotion. If you turn your head like that, that's movement. But if you were supposed to stand and walk away, that's locomotion. So we spoke just now about the endoskeleton, and we were saying that pretty much all the classes of animals, vertebrate, they have endoskeleton. Now we could also think about exoskeleton. And the exoskeleton, it is pretty much easily seen among the arthropods. Now the exoskeleton is found on the outside of the organism. Now I think everybody would know what a crab looks like. A crab, what it looks like. And you probably would know what a lobster look like. They have exoskeleton. And you probably are aware of an insect which has an exoskeleton we refer to as chitin. All right, so exoskeleton is found on the outside, while endoskeleton is found, of course, on the inside. So there's also that which we refer to as hydroskeleton, which you'd find pretty much with the earthworm, and the body there is pretty much all held up by water. All right, so an example of that, the hydroskeleton, would have been the earthworm, and the body is made to keep that shape, upward, that flush shape, all because of the water in the cells. We're going to be looking at the functions of a skeletal system. Now I'm going to be asking you now to be a part of the class So I want you to just list the functions for me. Some persons would probably say it's 4 functions. Some persons are going to say that it is 6 functions. And I don't know, probably you come up with more. So what are the functions? As you think about them, the first one we could think about, so I'll be telling you about them while you write what they are. So the first function we could think about is protection. All right? That is the first function of the skeletal system. And if you were supposed to look at the head, the skull, all right, it is protecting what? It's protecting the brain. It's also protecting the eyes that are pretty much in this orbit, right? The tongue, which is also a soft organ in the mouth, is also protected by the skull. Now, when we talk about protection, we could also think about the vertebral column, or what we call, some persons like to call it the backbone. All right, so the vertebral column, it has pretty much the spinal cord going through that column, and the spinal cord gets protection from that bone. There's also the rib cage around the torso here, the rib cage, and pretty much the sternum that is in the middle right here. Let me hope you can see. So we have the sternum here, and we have the rib cage right here. So pretty much the rib cage and sternum, those would be assisting with protection, and they are protecting the vital internal organs like the heart, the lungs, etc. All right, good. So that's just one thing, protection. Tamara is saying that it gives the body shape. And this is a pretty wonderful one, because the shape is going to be very, very important if we were supposed to make that distinction between two skeletal systems. You know, a whole lot of things happen, and from time to time you have to identify a life form that is at the stage of the skeletal system. Now, the skeletal system gives the body shape. You look at the head, it is because of the bone there that would cause person's head to be a little different. And then when we look at what we call the pectoral girdle, that is this area here, it is a little wider for male than it is for women. So you would understand that the male would have a chest that look a little different than the woman, while the pelvic girdle is a little wider for the female. And the pelvic girdle is a little wider for female because it allows for the passage of a child. Now, it's very important to understand that this shape is probably a sort of the shape that the women have. The shape is sought after by males, and the pectoral girdle is that sort of shape by females in most cases. All right, so the skeletal system, it gives the body shape. We said that, and we also said that it helps to protect the body. Another thing that we could think about is that the skeletal system provides support. It provides support for the body. Soft, flexible part of the body is, of course, supported. We could think about the vertebral column, what we refer to as the backbone. The vertebral column is, of course, supporting the structure, as it were, for the human body, of course, or any animal, all right, holding the animal upright. If we didn't have the skeletal system, which is all connected to, is a connection of pretty much muscles and bone, what would happen? It would fall to the ground and pretty much would be flat like an amoeba, or probably like the egg when you put it in that frying pan. All right, so the skeletal system is very, very important to provide that support. Then we could think about the pelvic girdle, which provides some support here for the muscles, and we just spoke about the shape of the pelvic girdle versus the shape of the pectoral and pelvic girdle. We just spoke about those. Another thing that we could talk about is that it pretty much stores calcium and phosphorus, as is said here by Barnett. Now, it also makes red and white blood cell. Those are very, very important points. So it makes red and white blood cell, and she has left it out, but of course, the skeletal system also makes platelets. All right, so we are going to be talking more about that. Just give me a second. All right, so it's very important to note as well that the skeletal system made up of the many bones and muscles connected to them. The skeletal system provides what we refer to as muscle attachment. right? If the muscle is not attached to anything, then there will be no strength, so to speak. You won't be able to lift anything because that lever effect will not be possible unless the muscles are connected to somewhere. Now, we could think about the lever movement of probably the arm. At the front part of the arm here, we have the bicep, and the back here, we have the tricep, and I'm able to flex and extend the hand, flex, extend the hand as a result of a muscle attachment between the bone and, of course, the muscle. So we continue. So we spoke about the manufacturing of red blood cell. We spoke about the manufacturing of white blood cell. We spoke about the manufacturing of platelets, which are all functions of a bone. Now, the red blood cells and platelets and all these stuff, they are, of course, made in the red bone marrow of flat bones. And some of the flat bones we can think about, we could talk about the scapula that is at the back right here. We could talk about the sternum that is at the front right here. And we could, of course, talk about the rib cage. It is also true that these cells are also made in the end of the long bones. Now, we talk about the long bones. We are talking about like the femur and the humerus. Those are good example, pretty good example of the long bones. So there we have covered a lot. Amoy, are you fine? I'm not too sure. You came in and you said something and then you're all dormant. I'm not too sure what has happened. All right, so we're going to be moving on now to look at, so we've just completed the function of the skeletal system. If you want me to recap, that I could do. The skeletal system, it provides protection, it provides support, it of course helps to give the body shape, provides muscle attachment, it stores calcium and phosphate, and of course, it is responsible for the manufacturing of red, white blood cell, and of course, platelets. We're going to be looking at a troubled part of probably the skeletal system. And I say troubled because I would be that individual who is probably looking at a couple of books that students are using for the exams. Now I'm going to be looking at the axial skeleton, and then I'm going to be looking at the appendicular skeleton. Now, if you are using your textbook, I want you to look at your textbook. And if you are not using your textbook, I want you to open another window and go to Google. I'm going to tell you now, the axial skeleton, it's made up of the skull, the spinal column, this bone that runs from the tail of the skull go right down the back. It's called the spinal column or backbone. And it also, this is where the controversy comes in. This is where the controversy comes in. It also includes the rib cage. So the axial skeleton also includes the rib cage. So let's go again. The axial skeleton would have been the skull, the vertebral column, and the rib cage. You might be wondering what, depending on what book you're using, but that is the fact. All right, so the vertebral column, as it were, for the axial skeleton, it's pretty interesting, and we're going to be looking at it. It is made up of 33 bones that are referred to as vertebrae. 33 bones, interesting bones. We're going to be looking at them in a bit. Very sorry. Then we have what is called the appendicular skeleton. Don't have a diagram now, but I probably could use you as the diagram. All right, so the appendicular skeleton refers to appendages, all right, things that you are going to attach. So if I had this pen and I were supposed to attach the cover, this would just pretty much be an appendage. So the appendage to the axial skeleton would have been the arms with this bone that go across here that is called a clavicle, and pretty much the bone that sits right behind here called the scapula. Right? And that is for both hands. And then we're going to have the bones from the legs. Those are also appendage, all right? Things that were actually added to the axial skeleton. Now we're coming up with more interesting things that you're going to be hearing about the skeletal system. Before I get there, I wanted to look a bit at planar view of an organism. I don't know how many persons have been exposed to this, but I think it is very important that we understand this. So I'm going to just figuratively think about a dog. I could probably just draw a little stick dog. Probably I don't want to use myself. But you could look at us being the same. If we were supposed to bend forward and lower the arms, would pretty much take up that posture as it were for a four-legged animal. So I'm just going to be drawing a little stick man here, and I'm going to be telling you a little bit about position. I will talk about planar view, and if you're going to do anything in medicine, or if you're going to be working with animals, you really want to know about this and be able to, of course, communicate effectively. All right, so I am drawing. All right, good. So the A here, I hope you can see, that is the front of the animal. That is going to be the anterior. Anterior. All right? It's going to be the anterior. Then the back of the animal, where the tail is, with the P, that is going to be the posterior. So where the tail there is, that is the posterior. The front of the animal here is the anterior. Then under the belly, that is where you would find probably the breast for the dogs, or the teeth for the cat, or the teeth for the dog. Under the belly here, I'm going to put a V there. The belly region there is called the ventral. Ventral. And then the back, pretty much like the back here, the back of the donkey that you'd be riding, horse, whichever, that is called dorsal. All right, so I put a D there for dorsal. All right, and then the side here where the ribs is, that tickly part, you don't want anybody to tickle you, that part there is called the lateral. All right, so let's go through again. Now I have everything on the paper, so I can quickly go through the views on an organism. And if you were supposed to bend over, you'd pretty much have this view. And I did this because there are times when we're going to be reading an X-ray, and there are times when we need to actually understand what's written on it, because they tend to use a whole lot of view. And if you're doing science, you need to understand the views. The syllabus really asks for more views in plants, but of course, you need to know views in animals as well. So at the front of the animal where the face here is the anterior. The back of the animal here where the tail is attached is called the posterior. Then the belly region here under the belly, rubbing the belly under the belly there, is called ventral. And then the back of the horse here that you'll be riding, right? That part is called the dorsal. And then to the side right here, the side you don't want anybody to tickle your side there, you don't like the side. That there is called lateral. So those are some views if we were looking at animals, and those are views that we need to know. All right, as we go deeper into the science, we are going to know. And you could type into Google about views, and you're going to see plantar and all of these fancy terms. I really don't want to get into them, but there are some real nice terms. All right, so we're going to look at the pentadactyl limbs. Pentadactyl limbs. All right. And I gave it a view just now, and I gave it a view because I wanted to go here. This is where I'm going. I wanted to tell you that we really have four legs. Yes, we do. We have foreleg and hind leg. So those that we're really bipedal now after some years, and we're only walking on the back legs, and we have the two front legs free. Now, the important thing about the fact that we are pretty much four-legged animals is that the forelegs, they are pretty similar to the hind leg. And we're going to be looking at that when we look pretty much at the skeletal system, where we're going to be naming all 206 bones, are close to the 206 bone. All right, so we want to look now at the hand. I'm going to start with the forelimb, your front foot. Yes, Jawawan, you have a front leg. Yes, Tamara, you have a front leg. Yes, Amoy, you have a front leg. And those persons who are watching online and don't want to join us to be a part of the chat, yes, you have front foot. All right, yes, we have front legs. All right, so we're going to start by talking a little bit about the bones. All right, so we will remember which bone do we have here. This long bone is called is it the humerus? Tell me in the chat. You know, I'm not going to be talking to myself. So the long bone here, tell me what it's called. It's called which other bone? Is it the femur or the humerus? Tell me in the chat. Come on, guys, don't leave me hanging. All right, so the long bone here, this one here, this pretty fancy one, it is called the humerus. All right, and then the long bone that makes a nice leg, your leg section here, I'm not too sure what each persons are watching, so I will reserve other things. So that bone that makes the leg down here is called the femur. Now, let's get back up to the hand, all right? And I want you to know your hand. I want you to know your front foot, all right? So let's talk a little bit about the front foot very, very quickly. So we have the humerus here, and then I like to bend my hand because I like students getting into the exam and they can understand what is happening. So my hand is all bend, or one might say flex. So right here, this bone that you're feeling right here, you probably want to bend your hand. This bone that you're feeling here is the ulna. All right. So just like I have pulled my arm now, and it sits pretty much, that is how humerus sits into the ulna. So the ulna is right here. All right. So I do hope that you understand that. So when you look at the diagram on your exam paper, the bone that you're seeing curve, like my hand here, and the other bone sitting or somewhere there, it's a synovial joint, so you'll have a little space. That bone is going to be the ulna. So the ulna and the humerus is going to sit nicely into the ulna. And then right beside the ulna, there is a smaller bone that runs right to the side and connect to the side there. And it will allow us to turn our hands that way. That bone to the side there, it allows us to twist our hands. Now, look at that. So we spoke about the humerus here, and then we spoke about the femur in the leg. And then we spoke about two bones here, the ulna and the radius. Now, when we get down to the hind leg, while the bone has a different name, it's pretty much the makeup is pretty much the same. When we get to the hind leg, we have the femur, and then we are going to have the tibia, and then we are going to have the fibula. The tibia and the fibula. So we have two bones down here. What do you call it down there again? Just below your knee, that region. You can tell me. Help me over in the chat. So we have another bone, two bones down there. All right. So let us compare these bones. So the ulna would be similar to the fibula, and the tibia would have been similar to the radius. These are things that you probably need to know. All right. So we could go a little further. We could talk about the tarsals. We could talk about the tarsals in the legs. And we could talk about the metatarsals in the leg, while in the hand, we're having carpals and, of course, metacarpals. So in the leg, it's called tarsals. In the hand, it is called carpals. But it is pretty much the same number. And while the digits here, the phalanges, while they might be taller on the front leg, in the hind leg, they are pretty much the same. They are just a little shorter. And why they are a little taller here, it is because you are supposed to use the front leg to grip things, all right? So while you're using this to grip and probably pull, then the hind leg is pretty much digging into whatever that support is and push, right? So in most cases, the hind leg will be pushing while the front leg will be pulling, all right? So we have how many legs? Probably 4. Just probably. But we have evolved over the years, and we don't really have to worry about how many legs, because we are now bipedal. We're able to walk on, of course, just 2 legs. And for many persons must be happy for that. We're going to be looking at the skeletal system a little bit later in the lesson. And at that time, we should be able to, of course, dive deeper into the carpals and, of course, metacarpals, the tarsals, and, of course, metatarsals. So we're going to be now looking at the vertebral. That's not a youngers, but I don't know. I think we're gifted with bikes here. And on my videos, you would have seen that. All right, so we are a little over the halfway mark, and I'm going to allow persons who have been here since the start to get yourself some water, because we're going for the entire skeletal system this evening. While you would have gone to get that water, I'll just recap some of the things that we have looked at. And then when you make your way back, we're going to be looking at the vertebral column. A pretty nice thing to look at. And of course, the students who are doing biology, you will of course have to look at the vertebral column, and you will have to know the difference. Biology student, you'll have to know that. So I'm going to be pointing out some stuff that it is really, really critical for the bio students versus the students who are doing human and social biology. So we started the lesson today with looking at some quotes from Mr. Wilson, and then we dived on into movement. We were able to make the distinction between movement and locomotion, and we cite a couple examples. Then we moved on into, of course, the reason for organisms moving or locomoting. And of course, we gave a whole lot of examples there. And then we went on into the skeletal system, and we were a little troublesome when we looked at the axial skeleton versus the appendicular skeleton, where we added to what you already know for some persons, and some person would have already known that the axial skeleton is made up of the skull, vertebral column, and ribcage. And then we spoke about the appendicular skeleton, and we said that it is made up of the limbs, and of course, including the clavicle, this bone that goes right across here, is connected to the sternum and go right back on top here to the scapula. It's connected there, and we also have the scapula being a part of the appendage. The term appendicular skeleton refers pretty much to appendage. All right, so we have been doing wonderful so far. We also looked at the shape. The shape, when we looked at the girdles, when we spoke about the appendicular skeleton, and we said that for male, the pectoral girdle is going to be a little wider, while for female, the pelvic girdle, that's down the hip region here, is going to be a little wider. And that is to, of course, ensure childbearing. For some reason, our phylogenetic memory would have stored that information, and males would have been more attracted to females with wider hip region. And the phylogenetic memory, I'm sure, is saying to persons that she's going to be able to bear a child that will, of course, live. Now, for the women, they are looking at the men and they are saying, oh, this fellow has a very wide chest. He's strong, so he is definitely going to be able to prepare for the family. So those are some of the things that we looked at. Then we upped on into the whole idea of the hind limb and forelimb, and we're able to look at those and establish the similarities. We're now going to be looking at the vertebral column. And the vertebral column, for some reason, in some cases, it is falling into the null curriculum or go and do that for assignment column. And I am going to be treating with that today. And of course, you will continue. So we said earlier that the vertebral column, which is the backbone that starts somewhere in the neck region here and go down to the coccyx, it is made of 33 bones. 33 bones. And it is divided or can be divided into sections. You're going to have the cervical vertebrae, which is made up of 7 bones, which are pretty much in the neck region. It's very important to note that at the top, there are 2 bones, the atlas and the axis, right? And they are very important in supporting head movement. So I'm able to turn my head like I am turning now. We're going to revisit this when we go back to joints. I'm able to do that because the bones we refer here as the atlas and axis. All right. And then just below the cervical vertebrae, there is the thoracic region here, and it is made up of 12 bones. It's made up of 12 bones. And of course, this is the region where the rib cage is, of course, attached. This is the region where the rib cage is attached. And then we have just below the thoracic vertebrae, we have what is referred to as the lumbar vertebrae. And it is pretty much the largest with the back muscles, those muscles that is keeping you like really upright, those muscles. It is, of course, a region where these muscles are being attached. So the muscles are attached pretty much at the lumbar vertebrae, right? And we have 5 of those. All right. I want to pause here before I hop up into the other 9. So after we have the lumbar, we are going to have the sacral, and then we are going to have the coxal. Now, I developed a little thing here. I came up with something here. You could just write it down or type it in the chat so your friends can see it. I know a lot of persons will never ever remember the names. Yes, I know a lot of persons will never, will find problem remembering the names of these sections. So I came up with call the little sweet cat. Call the little sweet cat. So call there is for the vertebral, is for the call. What does call represent? The cervical vertebrae. And then we have V representing the thoracic vertebrae. And then we have the little representing the lumbar. And then we have sweet representing the sacral. And then we have cat represent the coxal. So if you ever want to remember the disposition here, then it would be wise for you just to call the little sweet cat. That's all there is. Now, the thing about this sweet cat is that it seems as if this sweet cat is somewhat malnourished, because the sweet cat would have a very big head that is 7 bones, which are pretty much in the neck. And if you look at the belly, 12 ribs, it's really big, right? And then you come on down to 5 bones. So to remember this, we can remember that the first 3 sets is equivalent to 24. And we would have known that the thoracic vertebrae is made up of 12. And then the head of this thing is going to be bigger, the neck region. So it's going to be made up, we will find 7 bones there. So we're going to find 7, 12, 5, a repeat of 5, and then 4. All right. So it's very important to note that the sacral vertebrae, they are fused, and it's pretty much a fusion of 5 bone. Up top, Mr. Beckford, big up yourself. All right, so it's made up of course, 5 fused bone. And this is where the pelvic girdle is fused, is attached. I remember when we talk about the pelvic girdle, we are pretty much talking about the region there of the hip region. I don't know, a lot of persons, like when I teach this topic, the boys always like, they always remember about the hip region of the girl, and they tend to liken this hip region to a type of popular soda pop, right? So she's like that bottle. I don't want to do that, right? I'm not doing any advertisement here, but the boys tend to talk a lot about that region, the pelvic girdle of the woman. And then we have this section that should be or is considered to be the tail of human. We refer to it as the coxal, and it are the coxy, right? You might have a different pronunciation, right? That area there is made up of 4 bones, and that tops what we refer to as, that tops that which we spoke about earlier, the 33 bones that make up what we refer to as call the little sweet cat. So if you are called upon to remember these as to they usually use some timeline in what order they would appear. So you can just remember you're going to call the little sweet cat. And I know that girls tend to like cats. and boys prefer dogs. So boys, remember, I don't like cat, and what we were asked to do is to pretty much call the little sweet cat. All right, so there we have it for the vertebral column. There is much more to know about the vertebral column. I'm just going to be touching two parts of the vertebral column, and I'm going to be asking the biology students to ensure that they are able to identify and label the cervical vertebrae, the thoracic vertebrae, the lumbar, sacral, and of course, coccyx, if you are called upon to identify or label them. It's very important to note that a part of a vertebrae, it's very important to know the part of a vertebrae, because if you do, you'll understand how the connection is made and what makes it ideal for that area that it is found. Now, there's a part that I want to talk about, which is called the centrum, which is going to be at the base of the vertebrae. All right, it's going to be at the base there, and it is pretty much flat. It's a flat part, and it carries the weight of a body. So it's pretty much all of these bones are stacked on each other, and it's pretty much a flat area. Yes, it is definitely hard. All right, they're stacked on each other, you know, and that is why when we get to posture, we're going to be talking about that. They are well aligned, and if they are not properly aligned, like for persons who would be suffering from like scoliosis and so on, you're going to be feeling a whole lot of pain. All right, so I'm going to ask persons to look at the neural spine. The biology students, you need to look at that. You need to look at the posterior facet. You remember we spoke about posterior a while ago? We said that posterior is at the front, right? Did we say that? No, we did not say that. We said that posterior was down where the tail is. Remember? We said that posterior was down where the tail is. So the P, and then we spoke about the anterior, which is now at the front. Please follow. All right? Please follow. And I also want you to look at the transverse process, right? You must be able to draw all these, and you must be able to label them. I know for some of the labs, teachers will be giving you these to draw and label, so that, of course, when you see them on the exam paper, which they tend to appear on the exam paper ever so often, the multiple choice paper, that is. So you want to be able to draw and label them. Now, there's also the neural canal. There's also that which we refer to the neural canal. And you would understand that the neural canal is, of course, a channel or a space in the vertebral column through which the spinal cord will run. So that space in the spinal column there through which the spinal cord is running, of course, we spoke about that earlier, that it gets protection from the spinal column. That area there is called the neural canal. All right, I do hope that we're following. If you have not yet, like, share, or subscribe. It might just be time now for us to do that. All right, remember to invite your friends on over so that we can have a good time. And of course, everyone will be going through this lesson, if not now, going through the lesson again. I'll make the lesson so much that it is pretty compact. When you listen, you are listening just to the skeletal system, and I'll try not to put much fluff in it. All right, so we are going to be moving on now to the rib cage. So we just spoke about the vertebral column. And the takeaway from the vertebral column is to call, tell me what you're supposed to do. Call that, or call the little, you can write it in the chat there for me. We said that it is made of 33 bones, and it is very, very important in keeping us upright. All right, we also gave you the numbers for each set of bone, and we asked the biology students to be able to draw and label them. You can either up onto your textbook, or you could probably go to the internet, but we did give you all the parts that are expected to be labeled. So we expect you to draw them and label them and know them for your multiple choice paper. They are one of them. You'll always find one, or in most cases, there's always one or something about the bone on the multiple choice paper. or call the little sweet cat beautiful. All right. So you want to ensure that you're able to do that. We want to look at the rib cage, and for some reason I feel like I am missing something in my lesson. Um, I think I've gone too far. I think I missed on something in the plan of action. So being that I miss it, I'm going to be going right back there now. I have a way that I'm teaching. I have a plan and a line of action. So I think I have just missed it. So I am going to see if I can find it back. I will treat it now. Yes, I know. All right, so I didn't tell you that. I know, very good. See, I remember. All right, you are expected to know and be able to label the long bone. All right, so I'm not going to be looking at that in the lesson here. It's a diagrams, and I don't do good diagrams on the show. So I'm going to ask you to go to your textbook, and you need to be able to label, and for the bio students, be able to draw, while the HSP students need to be able to label or identify the part. Bio students, you need to be able to draw, label, and of course, CXC is always asking for some annotation. If you don't know what is annotation, just let us know in the chat. Annotation is pretty much just a short notes about what that part represents, all right, or its function, something like that. So we're supposed to also look at the bones in the body. I don't want to complete this class and persons not know the bones. I do hope that you can recall all the bones from memory. So I'm going to start. I like to touch my body, and I ask everybody, just touch your body. I'll not be exposing any part of me, but I'm going to be touching my body as much as possible, or I'll be giving you that description that you can find that place on your body. So don't have a skeletal system, but what better system than one we have here? So here we have the skull. So I want you to touch them because in some cases you want to feel them. So this is the skull, right? And we're having the eyes here in what we refer to as the orbits. So you'll find the eyes pretty much in an orbit, and it is pretty much well placed in the orbit that if you are supposed to get a hit in that like that, in most cases it wouldn't land square flat on the eyes. It would have fall pretty much on the bone around the eyes. So in most cases, yeah, you're going to tell me that you've seen whatever. Yeah, that has happened. Yes, good. So this is the skull, and then this is going to be the cervical. What is it called? This one here, the set of bones in the neck. Remember what it's called? All right, good. So this is pretty much where the vertebral column starts. And then right here, this bone right here, it comes right around from the sternum right here, the sternum, this flat bone in the middle of the chest, and it comes right back up to the shoulder here to the scapula, and it's connected right up here. This bone here is called a clavicle, right? And it falls pretty much in front of some ribs, right? So this bone here is called a clavicle. And then we have a bone at the back here we call the shoulder bone. It's right around here. This bone, flat bone right here, it's a nice bone right here. That one is called the scapula. All right, it's right there. Provided when we talk about point of origin, we're going to be talking about that bone. And then right in the middle of the chest, right here, remember, right in the middle of the chest here, we're going to be having the heart right here, where the heart is somewhat curved when it comes down here to the left, but the heart is right in the middle of the chest. So there's a nice flat tough bone right here we call the sternum. It's called a sternum. And then we're going to have 12 pair of ribs, 12 pair of ribs with 2 ribs at the bottom here that are not connected to the sternum here. They are called floating ribs. All right. So we have 12 pair of ribs and 2 ribs right here that are not connected to the sternum. They are floating ribs and they tend to move in and out somewhat like that. And then we could go to the hand, and you're going to help me here. We have this bone we identified earlier. We said that it was the humerus, and I turned my hand like that and I said that this bone that sits under the bottom here is called the ulna. And then there's a bone that runs to the side of the ulna that is, of course, called the radius. So then we got down here. We were talking about the carpals. Remember, we said that the carpals is pretty much found in the hand, while we said that the tarsals, they are found pretty much in the leg. So you want to look at this region here in your textbook. We spoke about the phalanges, or what some books would refer to as the digit. So we have pretty much looked at all the bone up here. Now the girdle right here, we call this appendage right across here. It is called the pectoral girdle. So right, this appendage right across the shoulder region here is called the pectoral girdle. So then we move on down to the hip region here. That is called the pelvic girdle. And then we are going to have this long bone going down to the knee. That is, of course, called the femur. And then right on top of the knee here, we have a little round bone. Some persons call it kneecap. It is called the patella, right? The kneecap. I hope I'm not going too fast for everyone. I hope you can follow. And then just below the kneecap, we're going to have a big bone there we call the tibia. And then we have a smaller bone that is called the fibula, right? And then we go down to the tarsals and metatarsals, and like we spoke about, the hind leg. Please ensure that you have a look at your diagram and you're able to identify your bones, all right? Good, they appear on the paper in many different forms. It's hard for me to say that this will come or that will come. One thing I'm sure that you need to know the bones in your legs, both hind and front legs, and I think the others will fall in place nicely. It is your body, so you're moving around with it every day. So you could just touch them. Oh, today this one is the clavicle. Oh, this one is the scapula. Oh, this tough bone in the middle here you're talking, it's called a sternum, that type of thing. And before you know it, you know all the bones. So we're going to get back. That's the activity that I was supposed to do that I left out. Came back, did it, and I'm back with you now. So we're going to be looking at the rib cage, and the rib cage is of course made of 12 pairs of bones, and they are of course joined in the sternum here and also in the thoracic region of the vertebral column, right? So they are joined to the thoracic vertebrae. Now, we spoke about there are two pair of ribs down here, and they are called the floating ribs, and they are not connected to the sternum like the others. It's very important to note between the connection of these ribs and the sternum, so on and so forth. And at the end of the sternum right here is what we refer to as cartilage. We're going to be talking about the cartilage later in the lesson. Now, another thing I need to tell you about are some muscles that fall between the ribs that we refer to. You would have recalled when we did respiration, we spoke about intercostal muscle. Now, these are very, very important because they assist the ribs during the breathing process. So the intercostal muscle, they are very, very important with the process of breathing. Remember, breathing is simply just the inhalation and exhalation of air. It is not respiration. They are not the same. All right? Respiration is not the same thing as breathing. All that breathing is for you to take in the air and let out the air. So that's pretty much for the rib cage. We want to look at pretty much the pelvic girdle, and we would have done that just now when we looked at the skeletal system. We said that at the top here we have the pectoral girdle, and the pectoral girdle is pretty much made up of a clavicle, which is of course joined to the sternum at the front. We say at the front here, and it is joined to the scapula at the top here, right? So we looked at that earlier. Then the scapula is pretty much a part of this pelvic girdle here. All right, so we looked also at the, did I say pelvic? Sorry, at the pectoral girdle here. We also looked at the pelvic girdle, and the pelvic girdle is of course found pretty much down where the hip is, and we say that that is made pretty much of 3 bones that are fused to each other. And of course, we said that in women, they tend to be wider. Now, it's important to note that these bones are also flatter in women, and it is very important to note that these bones, they are actually protecting the female reproductive organ. So they are wider, they are flatter, and of course, we spoke about childbearing and the importance there, and of course, that is it for the pelvic girdle. So there are 2 girdles, the pectoral girdle that is found at the top and the pelvic girdle that is found at the bottom. Both male and females have pelvic and pectoral girdle. All right, both males and female will have pelvic and pectoral girdles. We're going to be looking at bones, and when we started out, and we spoke about the skeletal system. For many persons, the thing that came to mind once you say skeletal system is bones, 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 bones. So it might be just a good time for us to talk about bones. And the first thing we need to tell you, I like to tell students, because when we talk about tissue, students just can't, students can't recall, they can't say what are tissues. So the first thing we need to know about bone is that bone is a connective tissue. It's also important to note that despite the bone being so tough, the bone is alive, it's living. The bone is a tube, it's hollow inside, because you'll recall that it's pretty much the site where the red blood cells, the white blood cells, and of course platelets, that's where they are made. Now, the bones are made. The bones, we talk about bones being made of what we call ground substance or a matrix. And it's pretty much a tough collagen fiber. We call it tough collagen fiber. And of course, there's this deposition of calcium phosphate and calcium carbonate, which helps to make that bone and make that bone pretty hard so that it can pretty much hold you up. And when it gets really windy, you're not all blown over. It doesn't just break easily. It's not that fragile. All right. The bones are also, we said earlier, responsible for making the blood cell. We spoke about the red bone marrow, which make red white blood cell platelets. Now, though we have the red bone marrow, there's also the yellow bone marrow. And the yellow bone marrow, it doesn't really make the blood cell, but it's pretty much a site where fat is stored. All right, so beautiful, 206 bones, and by now you should know that in babies, these bones are not fused. It takes a little time, so you'll find that persons might say the baby has more bone than an adult, because at that time the bones are not fused. So they'll say the baby bone is not fused, and the persons won't say that, they'll just tell you that babies have more bone. But pretty much that's the explanation why babies would tend to have more bones, because they are not fused. All right, good. I am back. Very good. Good to see you. All right, so I'm going to be talking now a little bit about some other stuff, and I'm going to be just easing it down a little bit. We want to talk about the cartilage. Just tell me in the chat, where in your body you can find cartilage? Where can you find cartilage? Anywhere? Tell me, where in the body can you find cartilage? I'll give you an example. Babies have about 300 bones, and an adult, a grown adult, would have how many? All right, Amoy's and ball and point. All right, so you understand that though the baby has 300 bones, you realize that these bones they have not moved out of the body. All that has happened is that they have fused to probably make what we refer to as one bone. So we're going to be finding cartilage in areas such as the nose, the ears, the trachea here, and we're going to be finding bones also between the joints. All right. Now, cartilage is also at the end of bones. Beautiful. So we are doing well here. Now, it's very important to note that cartilage are flexible connective tissue. These tissue, they are made of protein, and they tend to be glossy in appearance. Now, as Amoy said, the cartilage is pretty much found between joints. And Tamara was also correct when she said that it's found in the nostril, ears, and of course, trachea. But what's the function of a cartilage? Tell me in the chat. What's the function of a cartilage? Function of a cartilage. Tell me what's the function of a cartilage. All right. So the function of a cartilage is supposed to spread load, right? So when you jump, rather than it hitting on somewhere like a pinpoint, it pretty much spread that load so that it cushions the effect of that fall. Now it reduces friction. Cartilage reduce friction, yes, and of course it is somewhat flexible. It allows for flexible movement, right? And we spoke about where it is found. So it allows movements, and we're going to be talking later where it provides movement and how, all right? Help to reduce friction. So the key thing here is that it helps to reduce friction. I'm not too sure how many persons would understand what friction is, but if you want to ever identify or have a good example of friction, just look at the heel of your shoes. So you would have had a brand new pair of shoes, and then before you know it, the heel is all worn down to one side or to the back or whatever, but you need to get a new shoes because the bottom is all worn. Jawawan cartilage spread the load and prevent shock between bones. So it's preventing damage of the bones. Yes, we're getting it right here. Everybody is on point. Well done, good going. So we move on, and we're going to be looking at ligaments. And ligament, what are ligaments? Tell me in the chat there. What are ligaments? What are ligaments? So we spoke about bones. What are bones? And I didn't say, but bones tend to provide this lever for movement, right? So it's a bone that is connected to the muscle that causes movement. All right. So we looked at bones. We looked at cartilage, which is very, very important. We are now looking at ligament, and we want to find out what are ligaments. All right, so the first thing we need to know is that they are yellow elastic fibers, right? And elastic they are, but they are, of course, really tough. Now, what do they do? What's the function? Ligaments are elastic to allow the bones, the joint to move. So though they are elastic, they are tough, but they do allow bones to move. Jawaden is also saying bones are held together by ligaments. So the truth is, if this were a bone and this were a bone, they would have been connected to each other by what we refer to as ligament. So ligaments are holding bones together. Though they are tough, they are flexible enough to allow the bones to move. Beautiful. Bones are held together by ligaments. Wonderful. They, of course, allow for the bone to move, even though they are really, really tough. So now we're up and over now to tendons, right? And all of these are going to be very, very important when we look at a joint, a synovial joint, and how it functions. So what is a tendon? So we said that the cartilage falls between bones, and they help to reduce friction and also to reduce that shock. We also spoke about other areas that the cartilage is found. We spoke about the bone, that it's pretty much a lever and a place for manufacturing of red blood cell and a site for calcium and phosphate deposit. We spoke about that. Then we spoke about ligament. We're saying that ligament, they are responsible for holding bone to bone. And while they are tough and elastic, they are still strong and allow for some movement. All right. So now we're looking at tendon, and these are beautiful. They are always coming somewhere. Jawawan is saying tendons are composed of tough, non-elastic. It's very important to look at that. They are composed of tough, non-elastic fiber. Can you imagine if you needed some support, right? You were sliding like down somewhere. I don't know if you've seen that tape in Portmore with a crocodile there, and you were sliding down there and you were holding on to Mr. Wilson, and instead of Mr. Wilson to be properly anchored, Mr. Wilson is coming in your direction, then it wouldn't make any sense for you to be holding on to Mr. Wilson because you're still going to be eaten by the crook, right? So you don't want that to happen. So you see what is happening here. Tendons attach the end of muscle to bone of a skeleton. All right, good. Jawawan laid out the groundwork. They are wonderful. They are tough. They are non-elastic because they should not be able to stretch. And then Amoy nicely tops it off with saying, tendon attach the end of muscle to the bone of a skeleton. And then Jawawan came back and she said that since they must not stretch when the muscle contract. So you don't want that muscle to be contracting and the tendon to be stretching. I mean, we're not going to be getting any movement. We won't be able to lift up anything. And then Jawawan Barnett came, does not stretch, but it is tough, and it, of course, attach muscle to bone. And this also came into the chat, and she said, tendons attach the end of muscle to bone. They are made of tough fibers, tough fibrous connective tissue, and of course, they are non-elastic. So we're doing well here. I think everybody is on the ball and we are working out this thing beautiful. Now it's very important to know that they are made of white fibrous protein. Now we'll be making mention of colors. We spoke about yellow. Now we're talking about white fibrous protein, and of course, all other that we should have made mention of was of course said by the team here. So we're going to be moving on now to muscle. And we're doing very, very quickly. We are moving through this thing very, very quickly. We are doing very, very well. We're doing very well so far. And we've been going through this thing very fast. I hope that it is not too fast, but we have been doing well so far. Please be reminded, if you have not yet, like, share, or subscribe. It might just be good time now to do so. We still have enough content that you can call somebody over to listen to the content. Our students online, they are following in their textbook. And of course, we are treating, they are asking questions. They are allowed to ask questions. And of course, I throw them some questions. We're going to be covering the entire topic of the skeletal system today, as we're going to be trying as much as possible to do for all the lessons so that we can do enough past paper. All right, darling, good night and welcome to the show. We're looking at the skeletal system. Please ensure that you have a textbook and you can follow. We have covered most of the system already. We're going to be looking at muscles now. Muscles, I think I like to talk about muscle. I'm trying to remember, I think when I was at college and we did zoology, and then all these muscles came up, smooth muscle, striated muscle, and of course, the cardiac muscle. And we're going to be looking at these now. And at the end of the session, I do hope that you will be able to recall or you'll be able to identify these muscles. Remember that you can watch this video however many times it will be on the channel for your perusal. So we move on into muscle. And of course, muscles are specialized cells. They are one of the specialized tissue. And they are suited for, of course, contraction and relaxation to bring about movement. They move based on a supply of energy. And you remember that energy is coming from the ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and they are going to be moving. Some of these muscles are going to be moving based on how you want them to be moved, and those we are referring to as voluntary muscle. And there are those that you have no control over, like pretty much those in the intestinal tract that carries out peristalsis. Those are going to be involuntary muscle. And then we have the other muscle that it keeps working even when you're asleep and taking a little nap. It is like working. It is called the cardiac muscle, and that's the muscle that the heart is made of. So let us just jump right into this. So we have the striated muscle, and those muscles are called the skeletal muscle as well. Now, those muscles are voluntary muscle. An example of those would have been the bicep and the tricep. We spoke about the bicep here and the tricep under the bottom here. So the tricep is under the bottom here and the bicep is at the top here. We're saying that those are examples of voluntary muscle. What it means is that you are going to make the decision when you move them and how you move them. Now, they are, like we said, they are going to be contracting based on the need or based on your decision. They are called striated muscle. They are called the skeletal muscle. An example of these, like I said earlier, will include our bicep and tricep. So that's one set of muscle or one type of muscle that we have covered. So if it is a voluntary muscle, you are making the decision when you move this muscle. There is also involuntary muscle. What that means is that you have no conscious control over these muscles. All right? So there's what we refer to as involuntary muscle. You have no control over them. They are there and they are like programmed. Some book might say they are working automatically. They do what they're supposed to do when they are supposed to do. These involuntary muscle include your smooth muscle. All right, so we spoke about the type of muscle earlier. They include smooth muscle, and these muscles are non-striated. All right, they are not controlled by conscious thought. Examples of where they are found, we say that they are found in the intestinal wall, and they would be associated with what we call peristalsis. Remember, we spoke about that movement of the food while the muscle is squeezing, the circular muscle squeezing the food down the alimentary canal, right? So those are examples of circular muscle. Now, these are going to come up again when we look at the eye, because we have smooth muscles in, of course, the eye, which control the pupil size. All right? So we have involuntary muscles in the eye. We have no control over these muscles in the eye. They are called, some eye muscle there, we refer to them as, of course, smooth muscle or involuntary muscle found in the eye. Example of those are those that control the size of a pupil. In the eye, we also have the ciliary body, which control the lens, and those are also made of smooth muscle. They are involuntary muscle. So for the involuntary muscle, we spoke about those in the intestine. We spoke are in the alimentary canal. We spoke about those that are in the eye that control the size of the pupil. And we also spoke about those that control the ciliary body, which in itself control the lens. All right, beautiful. So the last muscle we want, this is like really fast, you think? The last muscle we want to look at is the cardiac muscle. And what we say, the cardiac muscle is the muscle that makes the heart, and it is always working, never stop working. And it's very important to note that it is non-striated. All right, today we have just looked at the three muscles. I think the big takeaway from the muscle here, the big takeaway is the whole concept of voluntary versus involuntary. Voluntary muscle, you decide when the muscle works, right? Example, lifting your hand, voluntary muscle. Involuntary muscle, you go outside and you are looking at something in yonder versus something close. You didn't tell the eye to do anything. That's involuntary. The ciliary body is working on that, all right? And of course, the size of a pupil is also controlled by involuntary muscle. So it's very important that you understand the difference here. You might see, I think on one of those multiple choice papers we have sent out, you would have seen them asking about voluntary and involuntary muscle. I don't remember, something like that somewhere. I think that would have been covered. Now we're going to be looking at how the muscle work. I do hope that we are all fine. Now, for the muscle to work, a couple of things must happen. There must be a nerve impulse that stimulates the muscle to work. Now, when this nerve impulse stimulates the muscle to work, it is going to release calcium ion and ATP to the muscle. Now, the effect of this release of energy to the muscle is going to cause contraction. Now, as the muscle contract, it will cause the bone to pull closer to another bone. All right? So, contracting muscle, pull connecting bones closer. Now, another thing to note is that the muscle contracts and become fatter. So here we have the hand. You could just put up your hand for me like that. And if you were supposed to flex the hand, as in bend the hand like this, you'll observe that this muscle become fatter, right? Because it is a contracting muscle. So once it contracts, then it becomes shorter and fatter. Now, as the muscle relaxes, it becomes thinner. So here, this muscle here, it becomes thinner, and pretty much it's longer now. All right. Now, when we go like that, you're not seeing it, but it is fatter and shorter. All right. So we have flex and we have extend. So when you flex, you pretty much bend the hand. Now, muscles that work, I should have said this earlier, and I'm going to go back to this here. Just give me a second. I'm going to go back to it. Muscles that work like the bicep and tricep, they are referred to as antagonistic muscle, right? And they carry out what we call an antagonistic action. It is as if you are saying yes and I am saying no, right? You are saying that it is red and I am saying that it is white, right? That type of thing. So when one muscle contracts, the other will relax. When the other relax, then the other will contract. So they are never ever on the same page. While they are antagonistic muscle, they are never on the same page. One is going that way, so the other one is coming this way. So they are always that type of thing, right? They are never pretty much working. They are working together, but they work together antagonistically in order to effect change, in order to move the bone, which is the lever, right? So antagonistic muscle, they work in opposition of each other. That is very, very important to note. Very, very important to note that muscles that work in opposition to each other are said to be antagonistic. And of course, example of this is going to be our bicep and of course tricep. All right. So touch antagonistic muscle. And we're going to be touching, of course, again, movement in the arm, how the arm move, and we're going to be looking at, of course, the point of insertion and the point of origin. These are very, very salient points to look at in this lesson. Please be reminded, if you have not yet, like, share, or subscribe. It might be very well time for you to do so now. Please be reminded to invite a friend on over. We still have enough content to share with your friends. We're going to be looking at joints. Now, when I teach this topic at work, I tend to tell the student that a joint is pretty much like a seam. A seam is a point where two fabric meet, right? So if I were supposed to have my hand like this and have my hand like this and they were supposed to meet, right where they meet is pretty much a seam. Right where they meet is called a joint. So right where they meet here is called a joint. That is all that a joint is. A joint is a point where two bones meet. All right? Now, while a joint is a point where two bones meet, it's very important to note that a joint doesn't have to move. So there are some joints that are moving, and there are some joints that are not. And there are joints that are moving that we refer to as synovial joints. But not all movable joints are synovial joints. So we touched a lot just now. We said that joints refer to the point where two bones meet. Then we continued by saying there are some joints that don't move, while there are other joints that move. And we went a little further by saying that not all movable joints are synovial joints. And we're going to be looking at that in this part of the lesson. Now, a joint may be what we refer to as a fixed joint. It doesn't move. And you're going to find those that they form little lines in the head that we call suture. So you have a lot of them in the skull. Wherever the bones are fused, you are going to have what we call fixed joints. They don't move. You are there, you are not going to move. They are fixed joints. All right. And then Good night. And then we're going to be having the movable joints, and of course, those that we refer to as gliding. Now, one might want to, I'm going to ask you, it might be a good time to ask you a question. What makes a synovial joint a synovial joint? Tell me in the chat there. What makes a synovial joint a synovial joint? Because I don't want you to leave here today and you're leaving with a concept that all movable joints are synovial joint. No, that is not true. So I want you to tell me what makes a synovial joint a synovial joint. What characterizes a synovial joint? And then as you look at a synovial joint, I want to make mention, all right, I'm going to be asking you as well for the types of joints. I'm sure that you know that from some time ago and you are ready and willing to share with me. All right, so very quickly, you could just tell me about the types of joints. Just give me the names and then we're going to go through them one at a time. All right, so we talk about types of joints. We are looking at things like hinge joint and so on and so forth. And we're going to be touching those in depth. All right, so we're talking about the synovial joint, and my students are doing a research now, so as to determine what makes a synovial joint, but it seems as if they have walked away from that a little bit. So one person, Jawawan, is saying hinge joint. I'm not too sure why we got femur from Gray. We're talking about joints now. We're talking about joints, Gray. I'm not sure if you got a delayed message there. So we're talking about joints. I want to know the types of joints. And a joint is pretty much a place where bones meet. A joint is a place where bones meet. I'm sure that we're having some late message going to Gray. Yes, I know. Ball and socket joint, pivot joint, hinge joint. Okay, so Amoy is saying that a synovial joint has synovial fluid, and it's also important to note that because of this synovial fluid, a synovial joint has a gap between the bones. That is what makes a synovial joint a synovial joint. And gliding joint is something, yes, gliding joint. Sorry, sir, I came in late. Good night. All right, that's fine. That's fine. Welcome. How you doing? I haven't seen Otisha for quite a while. I don't know what is happening. I haven't seen her. Macmillan came in late. All right, I don't know. Some persons are not coming to class. I don't know what's happening. All right, because of this synovial fluid. All right, so then we have the saddle joint. Saddle joint. That sounds like something I heard about, like when I was like studying. I've never seen that covered on the C6 syllabus. I don't even remember the saddle joint. I really don't remember that name. Sorry. I haven't used these things for what you don't use them, then you lose them. All right, so what do we have here? Sir Hosey. Oh, how come they never have class on Friday? I am sorry. I'm going to talk about that at the end of the show. I'll tell you about class on Friday. All right, I'll talk about that at the end of the show. Not a problem. All right, I know I had a lot to cover today, so I chose not to say much at the start of the lesson because I wanted to cover this. We have to cover these things. I wanted to make the video so compact so that it doesn't go very long. And when you're listening to the video, you're listening to the content that you intend to listen to, because I don't edit lives. It's a real class and you have to have a real life experience. Sir, I was here from the start. Okay, cool. Sorry about that, Macmillan. Sorry about that. All right, so we have made mention of the joints and the types of joint. We said that they are hinge joint. We said they are pivot joint. We said that they are ball and socket joint. We said they are gliding joint. We said that they are fixed joints. A whole lot of joints. Very good. I'll soon come back to the chat. All right, so for me, it is to be able to identify all the joints. And it is a real thing. So you're going to be touching yourself, touch yourself. Because at the end of the show, you must know where the joints are. All right. So we're going to start with the hinge joint. And the hinge joint, it allows movement in one plane, pretty much like a door. You open the door, you shut the door. You open the door, you shut the door. So it's found in the, of course, elbow. This is going to be a problematic one, but I'm going to fix it before we leave. It's found in the elbow, it's found in the knee, and it's found in the fingers. So if you look at my finger here, it allows movement in just one plane. All right. So that is hinge joint, the type of thing. All right, beautiful. Now I want to go back to the elbow. The hinge joint, all right, just let me pause. A synovial joint is the type of joint found between bones that move against each other. The SOSA that we'll have to revise that because it's not going to be helping much when we look at gliding joint versus synovial joint with that definition. So we'll have to revisit that. Sir, it is my first time on the live and I have to go to work. So we'll watch the replay. All right, thank you very much for stopping by. Please be reminded to like, share, and of course, subscribe. And when you subscribe, hit that notification bell and select all so you'll know as soon as we have a new publication. You would have known now that we are offering some IT lessons. So we are covered the IT practical. So we are doing the Excel now. So we have an Excel playlist on the channel. You can go to the Excel playlist. This evening we're going to be putting out the if statement, and you're going to be learning to write a simple if statement, a nested if statement, and then we're going to be moving on to other stuff. But we have been going really slow with the IT, but we're going to speed it up. And for those persons who want to write a nice little GIF in PowerPoint for Valentine, we're going to be showing you how to do that as well. Yeah, Mr. Wilson, I do IT as well. All right, so we're going to be going through that with you. All right, beautiful. So you're going to work. All the best. Please stay safe. Please stay safe. All right, we're getting back to the lesson. So Jawan is saying the hinge joint is found in the finger, and adipose, the saddle joint, can be found in the finger. All right, and thumb. All right, I think we have to look more at the saddle joint. It's been a while. I know the saddle thing, but I'm going to be honest with you. I am not locked on that right now. You don't lose it. You don't use it. You lose it. And I think I am pretty much right there. Thank you very much for bringing it back to 4 so that we can pretty much look at it. All right. So I was telling you pretty much about the elbow. And I was talking just now about the hinge joint. Now, the hinge joint is between the ulna and the humerus. The hinge joint at the elbow is between the ulna and the humerus. You will also realize that there's another joint right here. If you feel right here, there is another joint where the radius is able to twist over the ulna. So for that reason, you are able to turn your hand like that. All right. So remember, the hinge joint at the elbow, it is between the ulna and the humerus. Then we have what is called the pivot joint. Saddle joint is a synovial joint shaped like a saddle. All right, I still want more for that. All right. We have the pivot joint. Now the pivot, it allows some amount of rotation. And it is found in the neck. It is found in the neck. And that is what this nice thing here, the skull, the cranium, that's where it sits. And between the vertebral column and the skull, we're going to have a pivot joint. But that's not the only place that you're going to be finding the pivot joint. There's also a pivot joint right here between the ulna and the radius that allows the hand to twist like that. So you find that we have 2 different joints right here. All right. So we spoke about the hinge joint that is between the ulna and the humerus. And we're talking about the pivot joint, which is between the ulna and the radius. So I hope I didn't say something wrong earlier. This one was the ulna and humerus, and this is the ulna and radius. All right. So we spoke about the hinge, and we spoke about the pivot. All right. The radius pivots. All right, good. So the radius pivots are pretty much over the ulna. Beautiful. We're doing well so far. All right, so beautiful. So now we're going to be talking about the ball and socket joint. And the ball and socket joint, that allow you to pretty much spin like your hand, like for 360 degree, if you are fit and well toned and You never allow yourself to get a seize up and you need like a spray to sort of free everything. It's going to be allowing, good evening, it's going to be allowing you to move the bones in 360. Now, the ball and socket joint, it is found pretty much in the pectoral girdle and the pelvic girdle. Just where the humerus hit the pelvic girdle, you are going to find a ball at the end of the humerus, and what it fits in here is called the socket. And then the femur down here, you are going to be having at the end of the femur, you are going to be having a ball. And that which the femur connects in the pelvic is going to be the socket. And pretty much it allows some movement in all directions. All right. So the next one we're going to be going to is the gliding joint. And the gliding joint is like flat surfaces running over each other. Gliding joint is like flat surfaces running over each other. An example of gliding joint is going to be your wrists. All right. Flat surface running over each other. Now, it's very important to note that gliding joints are not synovial joints. Gliding joints are not synovial joints. So example of gliding joint is going to be like the wrists, where one bone slides over the other. And of course, we have like in the backbone, the vertebral column, where they sit on each other and they're sliding over each other. Those are, of course, gliding joints. All right. Now, you're going to be looking at this thing, and you're going to be talking. Yes, do have in cartilage. They do have cartilage. Gliding joints, they do have cartilage between them, and it is the cartilage that allow for that flexi movement. Right. So gliding joints, they do have cartilage, and it's this cartilage that allow them to move without causing any pain and that type of thing, any damage to the bone. All right. So the last one we spoke about was actually the first one, is a fixed joint or the sutures, example suture, and they have no movement. I would say where they were found. All right. So for me, the takeaway is going to be now you remembering where these joints are. So I'm going to go back up. So probably want to look at, start from the finger. So the joint in the finger here, type it in the chat for me, please, guys. The joint in the finger here, what type of joint do we have there? The joint in the finger, what type of joint it is? Joint in the finger, tell me what joint it is. And then you are going to come on down to the wrist here, this area, and tell me what type of joint it is. So it's hinge joint. All right, so you have the hinge joint in the finger. Hinge joint is in the finger. Hinge joint in the finger, and I'm giving everybody a chance to respond. All right, so we have the hinge joint in the finger. Hinge joint in the finger. Hinge joint in the finger. All right, yes, it's a synovial joint. Yes, it is a synovial joint. All right. It's called a phalanges, hinge joint. And then in the wrist, what type of joint do we have there? But at the wrist now, what type of joint do we have in the wrist? Sorry. What type of joint do we have in the wrist? A gliding joint in the wrist. The wrist, remember we're at the wrist, guys. What type of joint do we have in the wrist? Wrist, it's not a pivot joint. The wrist is here, now remember, right here where we wear a watch, right there, wrist watch. It is a gliding joint, beautiful. A lot of persons are doing well. So we have a gliding joint there. And then we move on now up to the elbow. And when we get to the elbow, there's a joint that forms between the ulna and the humerus. What type of joint is that? That joint which is formed between the ulna and the humerus, what type of joint is it? We can't just say pivot. I'm talking about the ulna and the ulna and the humerus. The ulna, we have to remember the bones now, guys. The ulna is this bone that is seated under here, and the humerus is this long one right here. I'm going to be using the name of the bones, all right? So what is the name of the joint? The joint, please go with me, guys, slow down a little bit. All right, the joint that forms between the ulna and the humerus, what type of joint it is? Hinge joint formed between the ulna and the humerus. All right, guys, remember that between the ulna and the humerus is going to be an hinge joint. All right, I remember I did use my hand to make a cup like this, and I say to look at the hinge joint on a paper, you'll realize that it sits nicely into the humerus, sits nicely into the ulna, like, and that forms pretty much an hinge joint that allow movement in one plane. Now, what type of joint do we have between at this point, between the ulna and the radius? Right at the elbow here, this region, what type of joint do we have there? At the elbow, between the ulna and the radius, what type of joint do we have in this region? The ulna and the radius, we're trying to figure out the type of joint that would have in that region. All right, persons are saying pivot. All right, we're going to be having, at the end of the show, we're going to recap. We're going to be touching some points. I did go through this lesson really, really fast, and I'm going to use the time that was allotted for the class to, of course, look at some things that we need to remember. And we should know. I don't want to leave here not knowing these things. All right, so the joint there between the ulna and the radius at the ulna at the elbow is called a pivot joint. All right, so as we move up with the hand, we're getting now into the shoulder. What type of joint do we have here? In the shoulder here, what type of joint do we have there? The type of joint in the shoulder, what type of joint it is? Type of joint in the shoulder, we are waiting on the answer for that. What type of joint do we have in the shoulder? As they make that decision, please be reminded to like, share, and subscribe. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so now. And when you do, remember to hit that notification bell and select all. We also want you to check out some IT videos if you are doing CSEC IT, if you're mostly in grade 10. And we've been going really slow and really simple for those persons who are afraid of IT and programming. I'm going to be taking you through it. I have a playlist on the channel now that you can go on over and just click. I think it's called Excel tutorial, and you can just go from simple to advanced. You'll realize that the first thing I did there is to write a dictionary in Excel, a dictionary that you just put in a number, and when you put in that number code, a word will pop up and the meaning will pop up. And all that is a nested if function. And I'm going to be teaching you how to do that so that you can write your if function. And I'm going to be showing you a whole other host of stuff in IT. Yeah, I'm going to be doing that with you. All right, so the question was, what type of joint do we have in the shoulder? And of course, it is a ball and socket joint in the shoulder. Beautiful. I think you did wonderful there. And we're going to be moving on over to the neck. What type of joint do we have between the skull and the vertebral column? What type of joint do we have there between the skull and, of course, the vertebral column? Tell us what type of joint we have in that region, and then we are going to go down to the vertebral column, and you're going to be telling us the type of joint that we have in the vertebral column. And I want you to just walk with your little flashcard. You're studying now, like I'm doing these power videos, where I'm trying to cover all the topic in 2 hours. For an entire topic, I'm doing it in 2 hours. So this is time we're going to get your little flashcards, and you're going to just make your little bulleted jotting stuff. I remember, as soon as you remember them, you can put down the card. You can walk with the video, you can listen to the video, and of course, I'm sure that you'll be learning. So in the neck there, we're going to be having the pivot joint. That some person seems to be a little tired. We're going to be having the pivot joint, and of course, in the back, no, there's no fixed joint in any other region we made mention of just now. So let us revisit that. In the back, the vertebral column, we're going to be having the gliding joints. And of course, at the base of the neck, we are going to be having the pivot joint. We made mention of that. And in the skull, we are going to be having fixed joints that are referred to as sutures. So that pretty much tops it off there. All right, that was well done. We're going to be looking now at movement in the arm. And we're almost there. We're almost there. We're going to be looking at movement in the arm, what happens to the muscle in the arm. I have been seeing this thing on a lot of papers, and I want you, if you are using your textbook, I want you to go to the skeletal system, wherever you're seeing the joint. I want you to look at two things. I want you to know the joint and the makeup of a synovial joint. A synovial joint tends to have a gap between the bones, as it has what is called the synovial fluid, which is pretty much in an envelope of it's made up of an envelope called the synovial membrane. So you have that synovial fluid in the synovial membrane. Then you're going to be having that cartilage there and the end of the bone. You need to know this area, the joint, what a synovial joint is made up of. And of course, you should be able to label it. Remember, we really don't give diagrams on the show primarily because it's either I'm going to be drawing them, buying them, or something like that. But I can't show you other person's diagram. YouTube is going to flag me for it, and I can't do that. But you can look at it on the internet, and you can look at it in your textbook. Now, I want you to look at the upper arm. You'll see the upper arm in your text, whatever text here. I am confused. Sir, I'm getting confused. Okay, tell me, why are you confused? We have moved away from the joint, and now I think you're confused probably because you're having a log. If you're having a log in the transmission, or it's breaking and coming back and cutting out chunks, you're going to be having you're going to be confused. But that's fine. I usually tell my students, if you're confused, it's the beginning of learning. I don't like to hear students say, oh, I understand everything. It's all right. Yes, I'm good. And no student can ever be good. Or as they wouldn't be students, they would probably be teachers because they know everything already. So we're now looking at movement in the upper arm. And I was also telling you to make sure that you know what the synovial joint is made up of. And you're going to be following that in your textbook because I am not allowed to show you people's diagram. And I could draw them for myself, but that's going to be a little time consuming with all my workload. Sir, I am confused. Sir, could you find a synovial joint at the shoulder? Let me make this very, very easy for you. If you look at your textbook, you should be seeing a ball and socket joint. Now, anywhere that you have synovial fluid, just go to your textbook or go to the internet. Anywhere you have synovial fluid and synovial membrane, it is a synovial joint. If there's no synovial fluid and there's no synovial membrane and it is just cartilage there, it is not a synovial joint. So that is just the difference. Once you have synovial fluid and synovial membrane, it is a synovial joint. All right. So I was asking you just now to look at the muscle. What I've been seeing on the exam paper is that one, we're accustomed for them to ask us about the muscle being short and fat and long and that type of thing. But they are looking now at muscle attachment. I'm seeing that a whole lot on the exam paper. Let me see what I have here so I don't double up on what I have. Now, let us start this way. I'm going to get back to the thing. Here, we have the bicep and we have the tricep. Now, bicep because of 2 tendon attachment and tricep because of 3 tendon attachment. Now, the bicep you would have seen on the last multiple choice paper I put out, the bicep joins to the radius. So the bicep coming down here, the muscle is joined to the radius, right? It's joined to the radius. Though we have 2 bones right here, the bicep at the front here, it is joined to the radius. Now, the point of it is joined to the radius are what we call the point of insertion. It is joined to the radius are what we call the point of insertion. And the point of insertion always refer to the bone or the place where there is most movement. So the bicep Let me say again, it is attached to the radius as a small bone here. And this attachment area here is called the point of insertion. The point of insertion is that point where there is greatest movement. Then to the top here, the bicep joins the scapula at the shoulder. It joins the scapula at the shoulder. That point is called the point of origin. And the point of origin, of course, is that point that if it moves, it is seldom. All right? There's not much movement at the point of origin, but the point of insertion, there's going to be a lot of movement. All right? So I will have just made a distinction between point of origin and point of insertion. Now, let us look at a tricep. Now, the tricep point of insertion, this is called a tricep. I'm doing muscle attachment to, remember, I tell you that the muscle, the bicep is connected to the radius. And then I tell you that the bicep is also connected to the scapula. Now, I'm telling you that the tricep is connected to the ulna. And this is its point of insertion. Remember, the point of insertion is going to be that place that offers the greatest movement. Now, the humerus and scapula is also other points of connection for the tricep. Remember, the tricep is pretty much a good example of antagonistic muscle. All right, so we move on to, we want to get back to the muscle movement here. Now, so we're going to do a little practical with our hands. Now, if you were supposed to do like that, you'd realize here that the bicep muscle has become short and fat. The hand is said to be bent or flexed, so it becomes short and fat, right? That is a result of this muscle contracting. Now, while the bicep contracts, then the tricep will relax. Now, if you observe, the tricep is all long and flattened here. So the tricep. Now, at this point, when we extend the hand, then the tricep would have contract to pull the hand back down. So now the tricep is all contract and the bicep is all relaxed. So it's very important for you to know the appearance of the muscle. When it is contract, it becomes short and fat. When it is in the state of being relaxed, then it is long. All right, long and slim. It's also very important for you to remember the point of insertion and the point of origin for these muscles. You must know in the upper arm where these muscles are connected. All right, very good. So we have covered a whole lot. Let me tell you something. We are going to pretty much be at the end of the lesson within the next 5 minutes, and then you can ask those questions. All right, very good. So let's move on. So we're going to be looking at posture. Did I say that correctly? Posture. You know, I really talk a whole lot of Creole. Posture. All right, so we're going to look at posture, and I am going to be using myself as example, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about muscle tone. And muscle tone doesn't mean that I don't know what age per students I have today, so let me not say a lot of things. All right, but when we talk about muscle tone, all that muscle tone refers to is that tension on the muscle. It has nothing to do with whatever else you're thinking. What muscle tone means is that there's a tension on the muscle, and this muscle tone is better in appearance, is better in strength if you exercise and, of course, stay healthy. Now, this is very, very important for the skeletal system. Very important for the skeletal system. Now, all the muscles could never relax at the same time. If all the muscle relax at the same time, then it would be a chaotic situation. We would be all lying on the ground pretty much like an amoeba or a load of you know what, and then somebody would have to just shovel us up. So the muscle could definitely not all relax at the same time. So there's always some muscle that are relaxed and some that are definitely contract. And then this muscle tone, a lot of persons are going to the gym to say that they want to be well toned. And being well toned is nice. Being well toned is nice because the skin is not as saggy and as soft as some person would look at it. Persons have some real mean ways to look at persons whose muscles are not well toned, and some real mean description. I don't want to touch any of those because, like I say, they are really, really mean. But if your muscles are not well toned and you are practicing bad posture, it could cause a number of problems. All right. If you have obesity and your tummy is really big, what will happen is that you'll find that persons will stand like that, and they end up with a condition where the back here has a hollow, and that is, of course, called hollow back. And then there are some persons who, because of bad posture, they tend to walk and they slouch somewhat like that, and when they slouch, they end up with what is called a round shoulder. So bad posture could cause hollow back, or it could cause round shoulder. However, the ideal position or ideal posture is like you'd see the soldier or those military personnel, uniform personnel, when they stand up at attention and they're all straight and there's a line that can run right through the ears, right through the middle here and go right down. Now, that is, of course, good posture. And at that point, all the muscles would have been pretty much where they are supposed to be and holding the body as they are supposed to hold the body. So you want to ensure that you are not slouching at your decks when you go to school. So you're not bending over when you go to the office, when you get to the office. Where say you watch the news the other day? Oh my, did you see that song? You saw that thing on social media? You heard what happened in Falmouth today? No, you don't want to bend like I'm bending now. You want to sit upright, right? Because you want to ensure that you are practicing good, of course, posture. Now, if you are lifting something, you don't want to lift from your back because you're strong. You want to be lifting from your legs, all right? Because if you lift from your back, you might damage the spinal column, right? And you might suffer a whole lot of pain. Now, effect of bad posture, there are many. It could affect circulation. It could affect circulation. It could, of course, affect your breathing. You're not breathing well because you're all slouched and you have the scrunches on the lungs and you just can't breathe like. I mean, that's a whole lot of work now in order now for the lungs is going to work on your slouch to start to get the diaphragm to move when you have actually crimped that space and reduced the space for the movement of a rib cage and all of that. So you want to ensure you practice good posture. So you could have poor circulation, you could have circulatory problem, you could have breathing problem, and of course you could have digestion problem. Of course, digestion is breaking down the food, but poor posture also strain the muscles. And if they strain the muscle, that is why you are going to have this slouch over so, or this hollow back over so, or you probably lean like so. You see some persons take some photograph and they are lean like so, and the photographer have come and push up this side, and by the photographer go over this, so the camera, them going over this side because the muscle is so strained and they're trying to control it and not feeling them over this side, and the photographer come and they push them that side and they are just like, and the photographer say, okay, you're comfortable with this now? And they just pop, 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 take which one of them you like? Okay, you like it, I don't have to take anymore. You're fine with being lean. I'm sorry. That's just sorry. I'm very sorry. All right. So another thing about bad posture, and this is the wicked part, is that because of the poor posture and the strain on the cartilage, it might cause erosion of a cartilage and eventually bones start touching. And then you end up with a painful condition called arthritis. Arthritis. Now, it's also true that some of the causes of bad posture could be obesity. you're too fat, so you have to have brace back way to hold up the belly. I mean, I started doing some workout, you know, and I don't know what happened, but anyway, I got all pained up one of these days, and I say I'm going to take a rest off from one day, and the one day become one week, and now it's about 2 weeks, and I've done nothing. I think I have to get back to it tomorrow morning, and I think that you should go online and find some exercise program and start it too. It doesn't matter what shape you are in, and it doesn't matter what age you are at. I think I am young because I am one of those sports person. I used to be sport person, and I don't think it's working much for me now because the belly seems to be getting a little, you know. And sometimes my partner is asking me when the baby is going to born again. She like stick me in the belly and ask that, and you know, so I have to go work out that and say, okay, I had the baby, you know, say I have 6-pack now, but now I have 1-pack. So I don't like the 1-pack. I'm going to see if I can work on a 6-pack thing. All right. So another big problem. We've seen this on the 2020 paper. It's the first question. Is it your tissue destroyed? They are stretched. Yes, it's actually the muscles that are stretched out, and muscles are, of course, tissue. So the muscles are somewhat strained, and it causes you to have that type of thing. And the same thing with your belly. If you pull in your belly, you realize that the muscle in your back, they tend to pull on, so these muscles start to get a little weak. So if you do a little abs, they start to tighten up the muscles. All right. And let me see what's happening here. Poor posture also causes major organs to become compressed, yeah, and functionless. And that is why major organs, we spoke about digestion, we spoke about circulation, we spoke about breathing. All of that is true. She nicely said it there, and that's pretty much the same thing. The one I want to get to is the aisle shoes. I don't know if it is a requirement by a lot of workplace or what, but we have seen a lot of women, they're in their aisle shoes, and then it causes the big toe to bend, the big toe curve, and then there's a big bone projecting on this side, because what it has done is to displace the bone and bend the toe, and then under it become callous, and they suffer pain. And that area that they call the calf, I don't know anything about the muscles down here. It become really, really, you know, I don't know if you say, I don't want to say tough and use the wrong word because I don't want to offend anyone, but it become a little more pronounced, right? And the toe become damaged, and it have corn, become callous, become painful. As work over, you have to grab a slippers, and you're thanking God that the day has ended, and you have to carry like 2, 3, 4 shoes to work. I mean, I think by now union should represent persons and protect them. Another thing about the aisle shoes is that while it destroys the toes, it is said to also cause the womb to tilt. And when the womb tilts, there's some problem with persons getting pregnant. I'm not sure, but I've heard that along the way. You can tell me in the chat there. Now, if your muscles are not toned, if you're not exercising, running off some of the pressure in your community, you know, you little rum and you get a little swimming every now and then, and you get a little dance, you know, on the weekend you turn on your music and oh, and you dance and dance and dance, and you, what we say, bust a sweat in Jamaica, and you bust a little sweat, and you know, all of those muscles, and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? If you're not doing that and you're not toned, then you end up with a person's referred to as being out of condition. So when you're out of condition, you tend to have a big belly, and you have softness over there, so softness over there, so softness over there, so, and you have tucking over there, so, and tucking over there, so, and tucking over there, so, and drawing over there, so, and then eventually it starts to affect your self-confidence. You really don't want to, you're offended when persons say a lot of things, and you stay away from a lot of circle and all of that. But of course, you can do some exercise and you can watch your diet, and that should help, right? And if you can't afford to go to the gym, just like you came to my class free, if you want, you could go to my YouTube channel, and you'll see I have subscribed to exercise channel so that we can get slim and trim and if we go to gym. You follow me? Amoy Lawrence, wearing shoes with high heels cause the body weight to shift, of course, forward and the ball of the foot, leading to a painful ache. Yeah, and that was on the paper. Beautiful. That's nicely said there. So we're looking now at the cure for all of this bad posture. First, you probably need to learn to take criticism. Somebody tell you that you bend or you lean or something. Don't, how you talk to? No, think about it. If someone is saying it, there might be some need for you to address something. So think about it. See what you can do to sort of fix yourself. Start exercising if you need to. Sit properly. Stand properly. Don't overeat. Just eat the amount of food that you need. Right? Like I said, when you lift, you are going to lift from your legs. And you are going to exercise, exercise, exercise. You are going to exercise as much as is possible. All right, so when you stand, you want to ensure that the load is properly displayed down the center of the body so that you don't have some muscles being strained while others are good, nice, and of course, dandy. All right, so ladies, please stay away. Oh, it's not the ladies alone. You have some fellows, you see, they want to look neat. And I'm blaming the girls like Amoy and the other girls in the room. They want these guys to look neat. So him knows him foot is the size of a bread, and him buy a shoes that is the size of a bun. So him knows him wear a size 12 shoes, and him buy a 9.5. And when him go out in him tight shoes, and to damage him too, him stand up one place, him can't even talk, him can't take part in the conversation. So him stand up because the shoes are burn him so much. And then him like, no man, I don't really like the talking, and him just business like, him just always step on the go because it might damage him too. It's not worth it. Wear your size. All right? It's not worth it. Wear your size. I mean, there's no need for us to try to be somebody else because everybody else is already taken. So it's beautiful if we can satisfy with ourselves. Wear shoes with, okay, good. So pretty much the question was asked why I was not at work on Friday. I was on the road and I was heading home. And I was really, really concerned. I really, really wanted to see you guys. I really, really wanted to see you guys. I was even thinking about the guys who had exam on Friday. But my mental state, because of some situation I really don't want to discuss here, my mental state wasn't enough to come and interact with you. So I was caught up with my mental state and missing you guys. I came in, I was stopped in traffic. I came in, I got here late, about an hour late. My mental state wouldn't allow me to start the show like I would have wanted to start the show, or cover for content like I would have wanted to cover the content. So I decided that I'm going to double up, compact the show today, finish a lesson. We still have not covered transporting plants. We're going to be taking that up. I'm going to definitely make it up to you. But my mental state was not here. I'm very sorry. Now, one other thing about vlogging, if your mental state is not here, it's probably not the wisest idea to join because you might just come and you're all over the place and daydreaming and saying some of the things that you really don't want to say. So for that reason, I just did not bother to join. I said that I'd meet you today and I would be on time. So I didn't have the whole lot of talking at the start of the show. Friday is exam, so we get the 2021 paper soon. As soon as you get the 2021 paper, please send it to me. I don't know that I'll be able to post it, but what I'll do, if you send it to me, I'll work it. And as soon as it's close to exam, I will post it so that you can get it. Amar, you did ask us to work the 2016 paper. We search among the papers that we have. We don't have the 2016 paper. So if you have the 2016 paper, please send it to us. Yes, we're going to be sending out a new set of paper too. Might I say thank you all and congratulations to you all. We have been getting some nice remarks from YouTube. In a matter of fact, YouTube sent to us. We have put it in the IT videos that we have sent out. First they sent and they said that our They said that our views were up, and then it went up again, and then it went up again. And then they said, and they were asking, what video have we made? What is it that we've done to our videos? We've done nothing to the videos. All that we have done is to put up some exam video, and everybody wanted to see the exam video, so persons were watching them. But we've always had great videos on the channel. Probably our top video. We have a couple top videos, but persons were watching, and we are really, really appreciative of that. If there's one thing that you can do for us is, if there's one thing you can do for us, is to at least watch one of our videos after the show. We don't ask some money, but if you can, of course, watch one of the video. If you are in Jamaica, we have a new line of product coming out. We have some sweets on the market. The sweets, we have sweets coming from Trinidad, and we have some sweets coming from Guyana, and they should be out very soon. I'm not going to be advertising this sweet as the sweet on the product, the sweet as the product. I can just tell you that we have some sweet on the market. And if you ever see that blue car on the road, that blue undercar with that loud noise in it, about free classes and all of that, definitely will be bringing some sweets to some kids, of course, close to you at a very good price. You understand that we have to have some money to run the show. We don't charge students, so we have to have money to do something. So we have to find a way to make that money. So if you are in Jamaica, you'll see the car, and you'll, of course, have access to the sweets that we got from Jawawan country. I we bought some from Grey country. So we have those. Let me see what's happening here. All right. I understand, sir. It's in what I sent you, sir. Well, I checked. Send it to me again, please. Thank you. Please send it to me again. Great. If it's not too much to ask, can we get some paper too? That's what we said. We're going to be working on some paper too. We started working on 2017 and 20, but then I stopped, and I had to do some things for work. We're not going on so good, you know, but I continue. I don't want to talk about a lot of things. I want to tell you that you guys don't pay me, but I'm happy being here, you know. And this is, I don't want to say much, but all I want to say, you guys don't pay me, but I'm happy being here. I fight to come and see you guys every day. I get up, I prepare to meet you guys every time we have a class, and that's a good feeling. That's a good feeling. All right. I wish everywhere that I go was like that. I am happy to be there. All right. If it's not too, okay. Sir, when will we start paper 2? All right, that's coming soon. I want to know. I watch them all the time continuously. All right, cool. Is Guyana Sweets loud? Oh, no, it's not Guyana Sweet. Guyana, we have a couple of sweets. No, I'm not going to tell you the name. We have a couple of sweets from Guyana. I have what? I have about 5 boxes of sweets in here right now. And like I say, 2 of the boxes from Trinidad, and 3 boxes, about 6 different set of sweets come from Guyana. Yeah, come from Guyana. Yeah, we bought them. They weren't given to us. All right. Guyana, yeah, Guyana sweets, yeah. Amoy, it's the last paper in what I sent. All right, I'm going to look at, I'm going to go to my Google and see if it is there. I will definitely will work on it. I want a sneak peek. It's not a sneak peek of what? We have Taffy from Trinidad. We have Dynamine Trinidad. You know those sweets from Trinidad? Jawawan, you know those 2 sweets? We have Taffy, it's from Trinidad. We have Dynamine from Trinidad. Let me see what we have from Guyana. I won't be able to tell you all of it. We have a ginger sweet from Guyana. We have a sweet called Chicks from Guyana. Just give me a minute and let me go for the others. I'm giving you no peek. I'll just tell the name of the sweet. I won't tell you the brand. We have a fruit watermelon from Guyana. We have a tropical mix from Guyana. We have a tamarind from Guyana. We said chips already. We said ginger already from Guyana. And we have a chocolate center mint that comes from Guyana. So you see, we have a lot of sweets from Guyana, and we're going to be getting more from Trinidad, Trinidad. So we have some products here that should be on the market no later than this week. So when we come out, just tell, if you operate a shop, just tell that Mr. Wilson will be coming by with a new line of sweets. They are pretty much, except all the sweets from Guyana, they are new on the market here. So we're going to be introducing that. I want a sneak peek. I know the company. Tell them to sponsor our show. I will show the sweets on our show. Taffy. I don't know what's Taffy. Dynamine Candy Company. Is that what it's called? I don't know. That's not what is on the package, but I won't get into that. I won't give them any free ads. Just tell them that we'll be too happy to advertise for them. Caramel cream. Not yet. That sweet is too expensive. That sweet is too expensive. It's very expensive. So we haven't added that to the stock as yet. All right, but we have some products coming out, and it's going to be busy this week. I think this week is exam at work. Yeah, most persons are going to be having exam. So anybody is here? We have anybody here that did the exam on Friday? Nobody here that did it? Anybody here that did the exam on Friday? Anybody here that did the exam on Friday? I know one of the salesperson. I'll talk to him. Please, 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 Jawawan. Please, please. Please, we'd love to have a sponsor. All right. We really wanted to share in the exam, after exam celebration for Friday. But like I said, I was not able to be here. A lot of persons sent in Friday morning, sent in to say thanks, and I'm really grateful for that. It's always nice when persons can at least say thanks. A lot of persons sent in Friday morning that they were really grateful. There were a lot of persons who sent in after the exam, even today, to say that they were pretty grateful for what's happening. Now, for you guys, I did make mention of a timetable for CSEC, the one that is online. I spoke to my exam coordinator at work, and he said to me that might not be the final timetable, but we have not seen a new timetable from CSEC. So I suggest that we continue to prepare. In my head, I am saying like exam is like 2 months away, and that is why we have somewhat changed the format, and we are trying to do a topic. So we're going to be doing like try as much as possible to cover a topic for a class, and you are supposed to go through those past paper however many times. Listen to the video, go through your textbook. Don't be afraid to challenge my answers. I am not the keeper of knowledge, and I am not going to profess that everything is 100%. I am almost certain we have 99% accuracy. But like I like to tell my colleagues, that for every CXC multiple choice question, there's a story around the question. And if when you start answering that question, you don't understand the story to which that question is answered, to which that question is written, you might not answer it properly. Let us look at osmosis. We could be talking about osmosis as in osmosis when we talk about just osmosis by itself. But we could be talking about osmosis when we talk about transpiration, and we could be talking about osmosis when we talk about osmoregulation. From what premise are they arguing the question? So there's a lot of things to take into answering a multiple choice question. In some cases, when we are answering the question, you might hear me say, this is textbook. What it means is that it doesn't need any special reasoning. It's pretty much like recall. If you were supposed to read that part of your text, you would be able to answer it. There are some questions that sometimes are really tight, and what we have done now for the tight question, even though we answer them, we would have left a question sign beside them, so that if you think that there is something different, you can leave it in the comment. Don't be afraid to respectfully leave something in the comment. We sort of like that. We want to have a community. We want to be able to talk about the paper. We want to talk about the experience. We want to talk about the new things I would have said or the different things that you would have known. Let me see what is here. May coming up and my head killing me. There's no need for your head to kill you. The Bible, if you believe in the Bible, say, practice to show or study to show thyself approved. So if you continue to put in the work, you being here is a success story to say that you are putting in some work. Because this is Sunday evening, you could have found something else to do with your time. You didn't have to be here. So you being here is a good way forward and enough to say that I can put some confidence in myself because I'm going somewhere. The table online has error. Which of the table? I don't know. Which of the table? Great, tell me which table you're talking about. Can't believe exam is right. Oh my Lord. All right, the one. Sir, do HSB have paper 3? Yes, it has an alternative to practical, but the alternative there's an alternative paper, but it is not for persons. It's for persons who are, I think, sitting outside. I think it's a persons who sit outside. And if you were supposed to look at my review of the new HSP syllabus, I would have made mention of it in that review. Sir, no paper 3 after 2021. I don't know. There is a new syllabus. Yeah, there's a new syllabus, and I did some review on it, but I don't remember everything on it. Shania, because I only see paper 1 and 2 on the timetable. I really don't remember. Timetable 2021. All right, like I said, the timetable for 2021, I'm not too sure if that is going to be the timetable. I know the one for January said final timetable, but the one for May, June did not say final timetable. And what we were told is that the exam is going to be pushed back to July instead of May, June, but we have not seen a new timetable today. Probably one will be out soon. Somebody made mention of a table being online wrong. What is the table? I would love to know that we can revisit. Where we have an error, we'll put the correction in the comments or the description. Sir, I am a new member. Can you tell me the days you have your live classes? Thank you. All right. Please ensure that you like, share, and subscribe, and please ensure that you bring a friend with you. Can somebody tell Douglas what day of the week we have the live classes? And I would have compensated for Friday because we completed the entire topic for the skeletal system. Everything. I gave you those stuff that you are supposed to go and look for yourself. So I would have done my part. I'm very, very sorry that I wasn't here. But I think you understand when your mental state is not where it should be. Not because it's a free class, I'm going to come to you any old way. No. I'm going to come to you and I'm going to be a professional. I'm going to give you the best that I've got. All right? Not to come on, like a pilot. You don't want a pilot to be flying the plane when he's sick or his mental framework is not there. All right? Let me see. My teacher CXC hasn't decided on a date. Yeah, there we go, Amoy. Yeah, that is true. All right, so Amoy, it's on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sunday at 5:05 p.m. And it's at 5:05 p.m. that you are supposed to join at 5. So when you join at 5, I am supposed to come on at 5:05, and I'm supposed to start the lesson, not be waiting on anyone. So like you saw, I came on this evening and I started the lesson. That is the way forward. All right? And then the multiple choice papers are there. Remember, you are going to do them today, tomorrow, whichever day you are going to go through them until you can argue the answers for yourself. Yes, there's my explanation there. But when you start watching and following the paper and following the videos and following the lives, right? We cannot complete the videos as fast as we can complete the live. And that is why you have not been seeing much video. We have been doing the lives. Once you follow the live, we have numbered the live. And if you don't know what it is, just call us. Oh, you can't call us. Leave a message and let us properly label the live. And if everything is not in the name of the live, you'll find what is in that live in, of course, the description. So you can go to the description and see what is covered in the live. All right, so you want to do that. Remember, our live is usually accompanied with your textbook. on your notebook. There are some things that we might say that is new to you. And of course, there are things that you will say that will be new to us. We are not the keeper of knowledge, and we continue to learn. That is one of the beauty of this show. We get to have this Caribbean experience, and of course, to have new friends to meet, and of course, greet. So who do we have in the room today? I see Guyana. I see Macmillan is St. Lucia or St. Vincent? I see Trinidad, Jamaicans. Who else do we have in the room? Have I called all the islands? I like to identify everyone. So Guyana is here. Shania Gray. Shania Gray. Amoy is here, Jamaican. Douglas, where are you from? Are you Jamaican or another Caribbean island? Just say your island for me as we wrap and bring this evening to a close, and you go and get ready for school tomorrow or for your exams. St. Vincent, Macmillan, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. All right, I think I need to do something on all of these islands. I need to come and visit. How far is St. Vincent and the Grenadines from Jamaica? Oh, I have some, you're close to Trinidad. I have some friends. Oh yeah, I have a student that was born in St. Vincent. Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, I know St. Vincent. Yeah, I know St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Do we have anybody here from Antigua? Anybody here from Barbados? Anybody from St. Lucia? All right, so we're going to be on. All right, good, Douglas. We're going to be on Wednesday. All things being well, we're going to be on. We're going to be on Wednesday. We're going to be on. I think we need to finish that transport in plants. We need to up it, get that out of the way, and we are going to be moving on to, I think, excretion. We are going to be covering excretion. If it's not excretion, it's sensitivity and coordination. And that too has something in it that I really want to address with you guys. I don't know which other book you are using. I don't know if you heard when I made mention of the axial skeleton and the appendicular. One of the textbooks that you are using, it is wrong in the textbook. All right? And in that said textbook, you will realize that there's a sentence there without a beginning. All right? I know a lot about the textbooks. I'm not going to call textbook name, but textbooks tend to have some errors sometimes. Like Mr. Wilson will have an error here and there sometimes. All right, so that takes us to the end of the show. I insist that I have a 2016 paper. I'm going to check to see if I have a 2016 paper. And if we have the paper, whether we have the paper or not, we should have a paper 2 out by about Wednesday. I'm going to be sending out this evening the other IT information technology for Excel. I'm going to be sending out minimum, maximum, count, and if statement. Sometime later, not this evening, sometime later in the week, we'll look at VLOOKUP, and I will be looking at the other areas to see what to do there. It's going to take me a little time to put all of that together, because you remember I would have said if you don't use it, you lose it. And my IT was really, really charged. I left home, went to college to do maths and IT. And look what I'm teaching, biology. Oh my God. Yeah, that's what I left home to do. When I went there, they said they were undersubscribed, and look at me now. All right, sir, good class. Hope you enjoy the paper 2 I sent you. You sent the paper 2 today. I know somebody. I think you sent me a list, a whole heap of paper 2. Yeah, I got them. Yeah, I got them. I got paper 2. Yeah, person sent me a lot of papers. Yeah, I got your papers. I did. Yeah, thank you. And I think I responded. I would have said thanks. All right, great. Thank you, sir. Okay, blessings. All right, this brings us to the end of the evening. Thanks much for joining. Please be reminded to like, share, and subscribe. And as we have been saying since lately, we have a couple of ads on our channel. Go on the channel and just take off one of the ads and put on your status for us. All right. We want to get to 50,000 subscribers across the Caribbean. We want to up the thing. We want to give you a better offering, more visually appealing, buy better softwares and so on, so that we can share with you or the generation to come. We're definitely going to be taking on new product. We're here to stay. We're going nowhere. We're going nowhere. We're here with this open source free thing, and we're going to be here for not only your age group, for younger group. You are the first set of kids. We're waiting on your success story and to grow and move forward. All right, Griffith, sir, good night. Is it possible that you upload a few more HSB video? What type of HSB video? What type? Because we have uploaded HSB video from cells right up to photosynthesis, and outside of those HSB videos that we would have, I think what is the challenge is that you have not seen the word HSB. Now, the thing we have not been uploading and using the thumbnail HSB, we have uploaded and we have actually combined all the videos, both bio and HSB, we have combined the topic. Now, what you can do, where we would have done something that is not so much HSB, you can go to our channel and go to the playlist that says HSB. Click on that playlist that says HSB, and I have to do it from the beginning. Okay, so we have videos from the beginning. I think the first video we have there is characteristic of living things. So go to our channel, go to the playlist that says HSB. Now the lives are in no playlist. So when you go to the channel, you'd have to just click on a live and follow the live. For most cases, we have numbered the live like channel, volume this, volume that, volume that. Follow the volumes. And where we have a duplicated, like even where the software is not working, we normally just make it unlisted or unlisted or private, so you wouldn't have that to contend with. And you just start playing it and sit in your house and allow it to play, allow the playlist to play, and you'll learn. But we have a whole lot there. Need HSP to go to college. I am a teacher. I am a teacher myself. Are you Jamaican? Are you doing HSB this year or next year? Those are two key questions, because if you are doing HSB next year, you have to do a SBA. Nickel? Oh, Guyanese, that's fine, that's fine. Okay, so beautiful. So everything is there. So we have other students here from Guyana. You probably need to link them up. The videos are there. We have been doing nicely so far. That which we have not covered on videos, if you go to the live, you are going to see that we would have covered. And while we used to go front and back and front and back, we have stopped that. What we've been doing is to just move through the syllabus topic by topic. So anybody can tell you now, we have just completed the skeletal system. We're going to be moving in that order. I would like to say we're going to try our best to do one topic per class. So we're going to try to compress the topic to 2 hours. So you'd have a 2-hour tutorial. So we're 2-hour finish. You can just leave a lesson, because then we're just going to be talking like we're talking now. So we've been talking for probably about 10, 15 minutes now. All right, so it's going to be that for this evening. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Tell somebody about the channel. Don't keep it to yourself, right? As we grow, and remember, provide us some feedback, all right? We are doing the IT videos. If you're an IT student, go on over and look at the IT and share the IT with somebody. Oh, yes, this is a class. No, we don't have a paid class per se. We have a class on a Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. So all these classes are 5:05 p.m. and we stream from Jamaica. Okay, our email is on our email address is on the channel. Okay, cool. I see that. Please don't do that again. While YouTube would have sent the email address to me and other persons can't see it, try not to send my family. Please do not send your personal information on the wall. Everybody on the wall is my family, but I don't know who else is watching on the wall. So what I do, if you want to reach me, just go to my channel page, or you can ask me or ask a student. Amoy, please put my email address in the chat here that persons can have the email address. You can send me email. So if you want something from somebody, send the email to me, to my channel email address, and then we will deal with it. We don't want to have any problem where persons losing all the information that they don't want persons to have. All right. Nobody can see the information now because it's hidden. I would have to click show for other persons to see it. You're not supposed to send your email address, your telephone number, anything like that. If you want to send it, you're going to send it in the email to my channel, which I am not allowed to show to persons. So yeah, I've been talking to persons. I've spoken to Amoy and all of those persons on the back end by email. All right, but we're grateful for whatever resource we can get and for whatever help we can get. And if persons need to make donation, we are grateful for that. You think we're saying that we don't accept money? Yeah, we accept money. But it's just that we're not going to say pay because some persons can't pay and all of that. I don't want to leave anybody out. Not that I have money. I don't have any money. I am like really broke. But like I said, there is no living without giving. All right. Of course, I love to finish my master's. I don't have the money to finish it right now, but not because I don't have the money to finish it. It means that I can help somebody to finish their dream. Someday somebody will help me to finish my dream. Or someday I'll find a way without to finish my dream. All right. So, Amma, you're going to put up the thing for me? All right. Let me just look for it and give it to you. It's Extreme Solutions JA at .com. I think it's something like that. Just let me check. I'm almost certain. That's it. I'm going to give you that. And then we'll take our leave. Just a second. So for the other persons, remember to like, share, and subscribe. The show is finished now. We've covered all we wanted to cover today. And I'll see you on Wednesday. I'll send a thumbnail so that you can know what we'll be covering. And you can do your reading and, of course, come back so that we can chat more about it. All right, so I'm going to be giving you the email address in short order. It's a channel email address. It's an open source email address. Just about anybody can access me through that email address. It's not my personal email address. It's a channel email address. All right, so go here. All right, so when you're going to go to the channel, you go to About. And when you go to About, it is extremesolutionsja@gmail.com. All right, so here it is. All right, bye, Gray. Sorry, I sent you email, but I haven't got a response. Did you send the email to that email address, the one that is on screen? If that is not the email address you sent it to, you won't get a response. But I checked the email address even today. I checked the email up to today and I didn't say anything. I saw some message from Cora, which I responded to. So send the message again to that email address. extremesolutionsja@gmail.com. Shernet, I am hearing you on the live. All right, guys, that's going to be it for this evening. Thank you and see you Wednesday. Remember, we have a live on a Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday at 5:05. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Today we completed the skeletal system. We are moving on to complete something that has been logging. We're going to be looking at the transport system in plants. after which we are going to be going to skeletal, after which we are going to be going to the excretory system, or sensitivity and coordination. We're going to be trying to complete a lesson per class as of today. All the best. Remember to go on over and watch the videos on the channel, watch your past papers, and leave a comment when you do. All right? Bye-bye. All the best. Take care. So insulin and glucagon are what type of substance? Organic substance. Insulin is a hormone that converts glucose into glycogen, and glucagon is going to convert glycogen back to glucose. All right, so they are hormones and they are organic. All right, all the best. Take care. We're out. Bye. Amoy, I think if you go to digestion and you go to the liver, we'll talk about assimilation. Or I think if I go to the negative feedback mechanism or something there, you'll find more about the glucagon and the insulin. We're getting there. We're going to be there very, very quickly. Trust me on that, because we're doing a whole lot of work and we're doing it very, very fast. Amoy, take care. Douglas. Where's Otisha? I haven't seen her. Where's Tanisha? I haven't seen it. Her. I was hoping that I'd see somebody who did the exam on Friday. Remember to check out the Excel tutorial, the playlist, if you're an IT student. And if you're not an IT student, you must need to know something about computer. The content I have there is very, very easy. I teach IT very, very easy. So, where is your sister then, Otisha? And you've been very dormant, Otisha. What's been happening? You probably need to send me an email and something not right. You've been very that upbeat person that I know. I'm not seeing that person. What's wrong? Exam pressure? Take it easy, you know. Don't go too hard now. Tanisha not here. I'm not too sure what's happening. All right, it's the end of the show. It's the end of the show. She's here. Tanisha is online. Oh, your sister is there. She's not logged in then. I haven't seen her. I don't understand. What is her name? What name is she using? You're sharing the phone? Otisha, you sharing the phone with your sister? I look for you guys and I look for it like as if it's a paid class. I look for the students who are here, students who are not here, students who should be here. And I'm tracking the progress as well. I look for the persons who are responding. I look for the persons who are not responding, that type of thing. It means a whole lot. You might not think I'm doing that, but I'm a teacher. I have to look at that. If you are responding or not responding, why? If you used to respond and you are no longer responding, why? Okay, cool. All that, I have to look for those stuff. All right, because I tell myself that if persons are here for the show, they are here because they want to learn. All right, I'm going to leave that you guys can go and replay the show and learn some more about the skeletal system. See you. Bye-bye. I'm going to upload videos.